Captain Hansol Kim stood in front of the largest gathering of alien species he had ever seen. The council chamber was huge, stretching out in all directions like a massive dome. Thousands of creatures filled the space. Some had scales, others had feathers, and many looked like nothing he had ever imagined. Strange colors and shapes filled his vision. The air smelled different here, processed and filtered to suit everyone. Hansol took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Behind him stood his team from Earth. Dr. Jiwoo Park adjusted her glasses nervously. She was a scientist who studied alien life, though she had never actually met aliens until 3 months ago. Lieutenant Taeyang Choi kept his hands at his sides, standing perfectly still in his uniform. Engineer Bo-Ra Lee looked around with wide eyes, taking in every detail. Ambassador Hyejin Song remained composed, her years of diplomatic training showing. They were the first humans to formally address the Galactic Council. What Hansol did not know was that every alien in that chamber had spent months studying humanity. They had read reports, analyzed data, and examined every piece of information Earth had provided. And they were terrified. The biological profile of humans was clear. Forward-facing eyes meant pursuit predators. Dense muscle structure meant strength. High endurance meant they could chase prey for days without stopping. Their planet was a death world, filled with creatures that could kill humans in seconds, yet humans had survived. They had survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and even their own wars. Nothing seemed to stop them. Worse still was their pack-bonding behavior. Humans formed emotional attachments to almost anything. They bonded with animals that could not even speak. They bonded with plants. They even bonded with machines. The psychological reports suggested humans would die for their pack. This made them unpredictable and extremely dangerous. The council leader, a tall being covered in soft blue fur, gestured for Hansol to begin. The translator devices activated automatically. Hansol smiled, trying to look friendly. Several aliens in the front row flinched. They saw his teeth. Predator teeth. Hansol began his speech. He talked about Earth's history, carefully edited to sound peaceful. He spoke about human achievements in art, science, and philosophy. He emphasized humanity's desire to learn from other species and contribute to galactic society. His words were warm and genuine. He truly believed in peaceful cooperation. The aliens listened in tense silence. Every movement the humans made was watched carefully. When Jiwoo stepped forward to present Earth's scientific data, she smiled at the audience. More aliens shifted uncomfortably. She did not understand why. Jiwoo showed images of Earth's cities, its nature, and its people working together. She explained human technology and medical advances. Everything was designed to appear harmless. But the aliens saw something different. They saw infrastructure built to survive disasters. They saw medicine designed to keep humans alive in terrible conditions. They saw a species that refused to quit. Then something unexpected happened. One of the alien delegates, an elderly being with 6 legs, stumbled on the steps. It happened in slow motion. The alien began to fall. Before anyone could react, Taeyang moved. His training kicked in instantly. He crossed 3 meters in less than a second and caught the falling alien gently. He helped them back to their feet, his face showing concern. The entire chamber went silent. Taeyang had no idea what he had done wrong. He simply helped someone who was falling. But the aliens saw a predator moving with frightening speed. They saw reflexes that could strike before anyone else could blink. Several delegates activated their personal shields. Others moved away from the humans. Hyejin noticed the reaction immediately. Her diplomatic instincts told her something was very wrong. But Hansol continued the presentation, unaware of the growing tension. The vote came quickly. Earth would be accepted into the Galactic Council, but with conditions. Many conditions. Humans must be escorted by security at all times on council stations. Humans could not visit most member worlds without special permission. Human ships could not carry certain weapons. Human military forces must remain in their own solar system. No more than 50 humans could be present on the council station at once. Hansol accepted the terms with dignity. He assumed this was normal for new members. Earth had finally joined the galactic community. That was what mattered. His team smiled and thanked the council. They did not see the relief on the aliens' faces. As the humans walked back to their quarters, they talked excitedly about the future. Bora wanted to study alien engineering. Jiwoo could not wait to collaborate with alien scientists. Taeyang simply seemed happy that the meeting had gone well. Heejin remained quiet, her mind working on the puzzle of the aliens' behavior. Their route took them through a viewing gallery. Large windows showed the space outside the station. Ships came and went constantly. The view was beautiful. Then Han Sol saw something that made him stop walking. Below, near one of the docking ports, a large transport ship was being loaded. Through the transparent loading area, Han Sol could see cargo. Except it was not cargo. It was people, living beings packed into tiny cages. Their faces showed fear and desperation. Han Sol's expression changed. His jaw tightened. His hands formed fists. The warmth left his eyes, replaced by something cold and hard. Jiwoo saw it too. Her face went pale. She put a hand over her mouth. Taeyang's entire body went rigid. His military training screamed at him to do something. His hand moved toward his side, where his weapon would normally be. He wore no weapon here. That did not make the instinct go away. Bora turned away, unable to look. Her hands shook. Heejin closed her eyes for a moment, controlling her reaction. Years of diplomatic training helped her stay calm. But even she felt the anger rising. An alien observer, a small creature with large eyes, had been following the humans at a distance as per security protocol. It saw their reactions to the slave transport. It saw the change in their faces. It saw predators recognizing prey. The small alien pressed a button on its communication device. A silent alarm went out to security. The message was simple. The humans have seen the transport. They are reacting. Send backup. The alien fled down a side corridor, certain it was about to witness a human attack. But Han Sol did not attack. He stood at the window, his fists clenched, his face hard. He watched until the transport ship closed its doors and prepared to depart. Then he turned to his team. His voice was quiet but intense. They needed to learn more about this. They needed to understand the laws here, and then they needed to do something about it. The others nodded. They all felt the same way. Heejin put a hand on Han Sol's shoulder. She reminded him they were guests here. They had to be careful. They could not risk Earth's membership over this. But her own voice shook slightly as she spoke. She wanted to do something too. The humans continued to their quarters. They did not speak much. Each of them was thinking about what they had seen. The faces in those cages, the fear in those eyes. Beings too weak to defend themselves, taken by those stronger. Behind them, security forces were mobilizing. Reports were being filed. The council was being warned. The humans had seen something that triggered their predator instincts. Everyone needed to be ready. But the council had misunderstood something fundamental about human nature. They saw predators angry at finding prey. They did not see protectors angry at finding victims. That misunderstanding would shape everything that came next. In their quarters, Han Sol looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, that transport ship was taking people to be sold. His reflection in the window showed a man struggling with rage and helplessness. He had worked so hard to make Earth look peaceful, to make humans seem safe, but now he understood. The galaxy had dangers Earth needed to face, and if the Council allowed slavery, then the Council was not as civilized as he had hoped. He would follow the rules. He would be diplomatic, but he would also find a way to help those people in the cages. That was what humans did. They helped. Outside their door, guards took up positions. Inside, 5 humans sat together in silence, each processing what they had witnessed. Tomorrow they would begin asking questions. Tomorrow they would start learning about galactic law and the slave trade. Tomorrow the misunderstanding would deepen. The galaxy thought it had seen human predators getting ready to hunt. It had actually seen human guardians getting ready to protect. The difference between those two things would change everything. 3 days had passed since the humans arrived at the council station. Captain Han Sol Kim sat in his office preparing a formal request. He wanted to meet with council leaders about the slave transport he had witnessed. His fingers moved across the keyboard carefully, choosing each word with diplomatic precision. He did not want to sound aggressive. He simply wanted to understand and hopefully help. He pressed send and leaned back in his chair. The message went out to the council's administrative offices. Within minutes, alarms began going off in security centers across the station. The council security officers read Han Sol's message with growing alarm. A human wanted to discuss the slave trade. A predator was interested in prey transportation. The security chief immediately classified this as a potential threat declaration. Additional forces were quietly moved into position near the human quarters. Hansel had no idea his polite request had caused such panic. Elsewhere on the station, engineer Bora Lee was having her own confusing experience. She had been assigned to observe the maintenance crews and learn about alien technology. A small creature with brown fur worked near her, fixing a power conduit. Bora watched with interest, taking notes on her tablet. The alien's name was Pip. He was from a peaceful herbivore species. He had never met a predator before. Working near a human made him extremely nervous, but his job required it. His hands shook as he worked. Bora noticed he seemed uncomfortable. She wanted to help him feel better. During her lunch break, she approached him with a smile. She opened her lunch container and offered him a fruit bar. It was a simple gesture of friendship. Pip froze in terror. A predator was offering him food. In his mind, this could only mean one thing. She was marking him, claiming him as prey. His survival instinct screamed at him to run, but fear kept him frozen in place. Bora saw his fear and quickly pulled back. She apologized, confused about what she had done wrong. She put the fruit bar back in her container and returned to her workstation. Pip waited until she was gone, then ran to the security office to file a report. Bora sat alone, feeling hurt and confused. She had only wanted to be friendly. In the research library, researcher Min Ji-yoon made a discovery. She was studying historical texts about the galaxy, trying to understand council culture. Deep in the archives, she found a section marked with warning symbols. The title translated roughly as Emergency Protocols. Minji began reading. Her eyes grew wider with each page. The documents described something called the Predator Protocol. It was a set of emergency procedures for when apex predator species achieved space travel. The protocols assumed such species would be violent and dangerous. They outlined containment strategies, defense measures, and evacuation procedures. With growing horror, Minji realized these protocols were being applied to humanity. Every restriction on human movement, every security requirement, every limitation on their ships, it was all part of the Predator Protocol. The galaxy saw humans as dangerous animals that needed to be controlled. She immediately sent her findings to Ambassador Hai-Jin Song. Dr. Jiwoo Park had been granted access to a xenobiological database. She spent hours reading files about different species. Eventually, she found the file on humans. What she read made her stomach hurt. The report described humans as persistence hunters. It explained how ancient humans would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. It detailed human endurance capabilities, noting that humans could run longer distances than almost any other land animal on their planet. It described the human ability to track, to plan, to work together in coordinated attacks. The report talked about human history, war spanning continents, survival through ice ages, dominance over every environment on their planet, the ability to thrive in deserts, jungles, mountains, and frozen wastelands. Nothing stopped humans. Most disturbing was the section on pack bonding. The report noted that humans formed emotional attachments to anything. They would die for their pack members. This made them unpredictable and extremely dangerous when they perceived a threat to their group. Jiwoo closed the file and sat in silence. The galaxy was afraid of them, genuinely afraid. Hee-jin called an emergency meeting with the human team. They gathered in a secure conference room. Hee-jin shared what Minji had discovered. Hansel shared the strange response to his diplomatic request. Bora told them about the incident with Pip. Jiwoo explained what the biological report said about humans. The team sat in stunned silence. Taeyang spoke first. He said it was prejudice, pure and simple. They were being judged for what they were, not who they were. His voice was angry. Bora looked like she might cry. She kept asking what she did wrong. She just wanted to share food. Jiwoo pointed out that the biological facts were not wrong. Humans were persistence hunters. They did pack bond intensely. Their planet was dangerous. The data was accurate. The problem was how it was being interpreted. Hye-jin made a decision. She would request a meeting with a council member. Someone had to explain the truth. Humans were not monsters. Yes, they had predatory traits, but they also had empathy, compassion, and a strong sense of justice. Those traits mattered too. Her request was granted, though the council member insisted on meeting in a public place with security present. Meanwhile, Commander Jae-hwan Kang was leading a patrol near the Council station. His fleet consisted of 5 Earth ships, keeping a respectful distance as required by Council rules. They were monitoring communications and learning about galactic navigation when a distress signal came through. A civilian transport was under attack by pirates. The location was 3 hours away at maximum speed. Jae-hwan did not hesitate. He ordered his fleet to respond immediately. His crew quickly calculated the jump coordinates. Within minutes, the Earth ships were moving toward the distress signal. The Council monitoring station detected the human fleet's movement. Alerts went out across multiple channels. The humans were moving at high speed toward another ship. This looked like an attack. Emergency protocols activated. Council defense forces began mobilizing. Back on the station, Hye-jin met with Council member Torin, a being with crystalline features who had served on the Council for many years. Torin agreed to speak honestly. Hye-jin asked the direct question. Why was everyone afraid of humans? Torin's answer was simple and terrible. Because in all of galactic history, no predator species had ever achieved civilization without destroying itself first. Predators fought over territory, over resources, over dominance. They consumed everything until nothing was left. The fact that humans had reached space meant they had somehow overcome these instincts, but the Council believed those instincts were still there, waiting to emerge. Torin explained that the galaxy had waited a century, watching Earth from a distance, expecting humans to destroy themselves in nuclear war. When that did not happen, the Council became even more worried. It meant humans had learned to control their violent nature, which made them even more dangerous. A mindless predator was predictable. An intelligent predator was terrifying. Hye-jin listened with growing frustration. She tried to explain that human predatory instincts had evolved into protective instincts. Humans hunted to feed their families. They fought to protect their communities. The same traits that made them dangerous also made them loyal and caring. Torin listened politely but clearly did not believe her. Words were easy. Behavior was what mattered. Then a message came through on Torin's communication device. The human fleet was approaching a ship under attack. Torin's expression changed to alarm. It was happening. The humans were hunting. Hye-jin tried to explain that they were responding to a distress call. That was what humans did. They helped people in danger. But Torin was already calling for security. 3 hours later, Jae-hwan's fleet arrived at the attack site. The pirate ships detected human vessels approaching and immediately fled. They wanted no part of fighting humans. The Earth ships surrounded the damaged civilian transport protectively. Medic Sua Lim prepared to board the damaged ship. She grabbed her medical supplies and suited up. The transport's hull had been breached in several places. Life support was failing. She had to work fast. When Sua entered the transport, she found 12 survivors from 4 different species. They were huddled together in the cargo bay, the only section still holding atmosphere. When they saw her, they pressed themselves against the far wall. Their faces showed pure terror. Sua moved slowly and carefully. She spoke in a soft voice using the translation device. She told them she was a doctor. She was here to help. No one would hurt them. She kept her movements gentle and predictable. It took 20 minutes before anyone would let her approach. A small child, injured and scared, finally encouraging sounds. Gradually, the others allowed her to help them too. Jae-hwan watched through the transport security cameras. He saw Sua working tirelessly to save people who were afraid of her. He saw her gentleness and patience. He felt proud of her and sad that such kindness had to overcome such fear. Before leaving, the Earth fleet left supplies, medicine, and several protection drones to guard the transport until help arrived. They departed without asking for thanks or payment. Jae-hwan filed his report with both Earth Command and the Council. It was a simple rescue operation. The message from the rescued transport spread quickly through galactic networks. Survivors shared their story with anyone who would listen. The humans had not attacked them. The humans had not hurt them. Instead, a human medic had treated their wounds with gentle hands. Human ships had protected them from further danger. Human supplies had saved their lives. Some aliens dismissed the story. They said the humans were playing a long game, earning trust before revealing their true nature. But others began to wonder, what if they had been wrong about humans? Dr. Ji-woo Park sat in the research station on the edge of Council territory. She had been assigned here to study an environmental crisis affecting a nearby planet. The station housed scientists from 12 different species, all working together to solve the problem. Jiwoo felt excited to finally collaborate with alien researchers. The crisis involved rapid atmospheric contamination. Something was releasing toxic chemicals into the air of a colonized world. If they could not stop it, millions would die. The team had been working for weeks trying to identify the source. Jiwoo quickly proved herself valuable. Her background in Earth biochemistry gave her unique insights. She approached problems differently than the other scientists. While they looked for complex solutions, she often found simple ones. Earth's harsh environment had taught humanity to be practical and creative. The other scientists gradually became more comfortable around her. She did not act like a predator. She was patient, thoughtful, and always willing to explain her thinking. She shared credit freely and never tried to dominate the group. Still, they kept a careful distance. Old fears died hard, then disaster struck without warning. A containment field failed in the main laboratory. Toxic atmosphere from the planet below began flooding into the station. Alarms blared. Emergency protocols activated. The scientists had seconds to evacuate before the entire section became deadly. Jiwoo was closest to the containment breach. She saw the gas pouring in. She saw her colleagues running for the exits. She also saw that the emergency seal had not activated. If that seal did not close, the poison would spread through the entire station. Hundreds would die. Her colleagues shouted at her to run. The manual controls for the seal were right next to the breach. Reaching them meant entering the toxic cloud. It meant certain death. Jiwoo did not think. She acted. Her legs carried her forward into the poison. Her lungs began burning immediately. Her eyes watered. Her skin felt like it was on fire. She reached the control panel and entered the emergency override code. Her fingers fumbled on the keys. She tried again. The seal began to close. Through the observation window, the other scientists watched in horror. The human was dying to save them. This made no sense. Predators did not sacrifice themselves for prey. The seal closed completely. Jiwoo collapsed on the floor. The toxic gas was trapped in the small chamber with her. She could not breathe. Her body convulsed. Engineer Bora Lee had been in another section of the station when the alarm sounded. She heard what happened over the communication system. Jiwoo was trapped. No one could reach her. The chamber had to be vented to space before anyone could enter. That would take 10 minutes. Jiwoo did not have 10 minutes. Bora grabbed an emergency suit and ran. The other engineers tried to stop her. She would die too. The toxic levels were too high. Bora ignored them. She sealed her suit and overrode the safety locks on the chamber door. She entered the poisoned room. The gas immediately began eating through her suit's outer layer. She had maybe 2 minutes before it reached her skin. She found Jiwoo's body and lifted her. Human endurance meant Bora was stronger than most aliens, but Jiwoo was dead weight. Bora dragged her toward the door. Her suit alarm screamed warnings. She kept moving. She made it through the door with seconds to spare. Medical teams were waiting. They rushed Jiwoo to the emergency bay. Bora collapsed against a wall, her suit smoking and damaged. She had saved her friend. The alien scientists gathered outside the medical bay. They did not understand what they had witnessed. One human had died to save them. Another human had nearly died to save the first human. These were not predator behaviors. These were acts of pure selflessness. Jiwoo survived. The medical team worked for hours to heal her damaged lungs and skin. When she woke, her first question was about the station. Was everyone safe? The doctors confirmed that yes, everyone was safe because of her. News of the incident reached the council station. It arrived just as another event was unfolding. Lieutenant Tae-Yang Choi had been assigned to protect council member Torin. Despite their earlier conversation with Hye-jin, Torin had requested human security. If humans were going to be on the station, Torin wanted to study them closely. Having a human guard seemed like a good way to do that. Tae-Yang took his assignment seriously. He stood outside Torin's office, alert and professional. He had noticed several suspicious individuals watching Torin over the past few days. He filed reports, but council security said they were investigating. Tae-Yang's instincts told him something was wrong. He was right. An assassin struck during a council session. The attack came without warning. A weapon fired from the crowd. Tae-Yang saw the movement. His training took over. He moved faster than the alien security guards could track. He threw himself between Torin and the weapon blast. The energy hit him square in the chest. His armor absorbed most of it, but the impact still threw him backward. He stayed conscious. His hand went to his sidearm. He identified the attacker and disabled them before anyone else could react. Then the pain hit. He fell to his knees. Medical teams rushed forward. Torin stared at the human who had just taken a lethal blow meant for him. In the medical bay, Torin visited Tai Yang. The human's chest was heavily bandaged. He would recover, but he had been very close to dying. Torin asked the question that everyone wanted answered. Why did you do it? Why would you die for someone you barely know? Tai Yang looked genuinely confused by the question. Because it was my job. Because you needed protection. Because it was the right thing to do. His tone suggested these were obvious answers. Why would he not protect someone in danger? Torin left the medical bay with a completely changed perspective. The humans were not hiding their predatory nature. Their predatory nature had evolved into something else entirely. They were protectors. Guardians. They put themselves in danger to keep others safe. Ambassador He-Jin's Song saw an opportunity. She requested permission to address a gathering of council members. Only a small group attended, those who considered themselves progressive and open-minded. But it was a start. He-Jin spoke clearly and honestly. She explained human evolution. She talked about how humans survived by working together in groups. She described pack bonding not as a threat, but as a strength. Humans considered their group as family. They would protect family with their lives. The key point was that humans considered everyone as potential family. She explained that yes, humans had hunting instincts. But those instincts had transformed over thousands of years. Humans hunted to feed their families. They fought to protect their communities. The same traits that made them effective hunters made them effective protectors. The aggression that aliens feared was actually defensive aggression. Humans attacked threats to their pack. They did not attack their pack. And the most important point, humans pack bonded with other species easily. They already had. Earth had thousands of stories about humans befriending animals, protecting endangered species, even risking their lives for creatures that could not thank the humans a chance. They would find themselves adopted into the human pack. The council members listened. Some remained skeptical, but others began to understand. Researcher Min Ji-yoon published her paper that same week. She had analyzed dozens of Earth's predator species and compared their behaviors. The most dangerous predators were also the most loyal. Wolves protected their pack. Lions defended their pride. Bears guarded their cubs with terrifying ferocity. The pattern was clear. Predatory instincts and protective instincts came from the same source. Her paper included data from recent events. Jiwoo's sacrifice, Bora's rescue, Taeyang's protection of Torin, Sua's gentle treatment of the rescued survivors. Every example showed humans acting as guardians, not threats. The galaxy was beginning to see the truth. But understanding and accepting that truth would require something bigger. Something that would force everyone to see humans for what they really were. That something was everything, and humanity would prove once and for all what kind of species they truly were. The emergency broadcast interrupted everything. Every screen, every communication device, every speaker on every station and ship. The message was simple and terrifying. An unknown hostile force had entered the galaxy. They had already destroyed 3 council worlds. Billions were dead. The enemy was advancing. Nothing could stop them. The council's defensive fleets engaged and were destroyed. These invaders were unlike anything the galaxy had ever faced. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything. Panic spread across the galaxy. Most council species had no warrior traditions. They had lived in peace for so long they had forgotten how to fight. Their defense forces were meant for pirates and small threats, not an invasion of this scale. In an emergency council meeting, dozens of Earth vessels moved in perfect formation. They were heading toward the 4th Council world under attack. Intelligence reports said they had maybe 12 hours before that world fell. The alien crew members on his bridge worked nervously. The Council had sent observers to travel with the human fleet. They wanted to see how humans fought. Now those observers were having second thoughts. They had volunteered to travel with predators into battle. It seemed like a very bad decision. Jae-hwan reviewed the tactical data. The enemy was powerful and organized. They used psychological warfare. projecting images meant to terrify their opponents. It worked well against most council species. Jay Huan smiled grimly. Humans had evolved alongside creatures that actually wanted to eat them. Scary images would not work on humans. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the besieged world. The scene was chaos. Enemy ships swarmed around the planet. Orbital defenses were failing. Millions of civilians were trying to evacuate. The remaining Council defense ships were being destroyed one by one. Jay Huan gave his orders calmly. The human fleet split into 3 groups. One group moved to engage the enemy directly. Another positioned itself to protect the evacuation ships. The third began attacking enemy support vessels. The coordination was perfect. Every ship knew exactly what to do. The alien observers watched in amazement. Human tactics were nothing like Council tactics. The Council fought defensively, trying to minimize damage. Humans fought aggressively but with clear purpose. They targeted enemy weapons first, then engines, then command centers. They disabled rather than destroyed when possible. But when necessary, they showed no hesitation. Most surprising was how the humans prioritized. Every decision focused on protecting civilian ships. When an enemy vessel threatened an evacuation transport, 3 human ships immediately moved to intercept. They took heavy damage protecting those civilians. The alien observers realized something important. Humans would rather take hits themselves than let others get hurt. The battle lasted 6 hours. The human fleet was outnumbered 3-1. They should have been destroyed. Instead, they pushed the enemy back. The evacuation completed successfully. Not a single civilian transport was lost, but the human fleet paid a heavy price. 5 ships were badly damaged. Casualties were high. Jay Huan toured the medical bays, visiting the wounded. He thanked each person personally. Many had been injured while protecting evacuation ships. He told them they were heroes. They had saved millions of lives. Across the galaxy, similar battles were happening. Human forces engaged the enemy wherever they appeared. Lieutenant Tae Yang Choi led a boarding action against an enemy command ship. His team moved through the enemy vessel with practiced efficiency. They planted explosives at key points throughout the ship. The mission was extremely dangerous. They barely made it out alive. As Tai Yang's team evacuated, engineer Bo-Ra Lee performed an emergency docking maneuver that should have been impossible. She brought their damaged escape pod alongside the human carrier with perfect precision. The pod's engines were failing. She had one chance. She made it. The team survived because Bo-Ra refused to let them die. Dr. Ji Woo Park worked around the clock analyzing captured enemy prisoners. She studied their biology, looking for weaknesses. Her goal was not to create a weapon that killed them. Instead, she developed a device that disrupted their neural connections temporarily. It disabled them without causing permanent harm. Even in war, Ji Woo tried to minimize death. Her device was distributed to all human forces. It proved extremely effective. Enemy soldiers could be captured rather than killed. This confused the invaders. They had expected the humans to be as ruthless as they were. Instead, humans took prisoners and treated them according to established rules of war. Medic Sua Lim established field hospitals on 3 frontline worlds. She worked 30-hour shifts treating casualties. Human, alien, even enemy wounded were brought to her. She treated everyone equally. Pain was pain. Suffering was suffering. She had taken an oath to heal, not to judge. Alien soldiers who had refused to serve near humans began requesting transfer to human units. They had seen the truth. Human commanders never abandoned their soldiers. Human medics never refused to help. Human engineers kept ships running even when they should have been destroyed. Serving with humans meant you would be protected absolutely. Ambassador Hye Jin Song coordinated the defense at a political level. She worked with council leadership to organize resources and plan strategy. Her understanding of both human capability and alien psychology made her invaluable. She knew how to convince reluctant species to accept human help. She also knew how to keep human commanders from taking unnecessary risks. Researcher Min Ji-yoon cracked the enemy language. She spent weeks analyzing their communications until she understood their patterns. What she learned was disturbing. The invaders came from outside the galaxy. They had destroyed their own worlds through endless war. Now they consumed other galaxies, taking resources and destroying civilizations. They specifically avoided systems where humans were stationed. They recognized a threat. Captain Han Sol Kim coordinated the overall human strategy from the council station. He made the difficult choices about where to send forces. Every decision meant saving some people and not others. The weight of command pressed down on him. But he never wavered. He always prioritized saving the most lives, even when it meant putting human forces at greater risk. The decisive battle came at a densely populated council world. 3 billion people lived there. The enemy committed their largest fleet to destroying it. Human forces were outnumbered 10-1. The odds were impossible. Jaehwan's fleet arrived first. He knew reinforcements were coming, but they would take hours. He had to hold the line until then. He positioned his ships between the planet and the enemy. His fleet became a living shield. They absorbed tremendous damage. Ships were torn apart. Crews died at their stations. But the defense line held. On the planet below, millions of aliens watched their orbital displays. They saw human ships fighting and dying to protect them. Ships that should have retreated stayed in position. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Humans were dying by the hundreds to save aliens they had never met. The pattern was clear. Humans were not using their bodies as weapons. They were using their bodies as barriers. They were shields made of flesh and metal. Every human ship destroyed meant the planet was safe a little longer. Reinforcements arrived just as Jaehwan's flagship took critical damage. More human ships poured into the battle, but the tide had already turned. The enemy had expected easy victory. Instead, they found opponents who would not stop, would not retreat, and would not surrender. The invaders began to withdraw. The rescued planet celebrated. But in the human fleet, there was only exhaustion and grief. They had won, but the cost was terrible. Jaehwan walked through his damaged ship, seeing the empty stations where crew members had died. He carried that weight. Every human commander did. Something changed across the galaxy after that battle. Alien species began volunteering to serve with human forces. They wanted to be part of something bigger. They had seen humans fight harder for others than for themselves. They had seen humans sacrifice everything to protect complete strangers. This was not predator behavior. This was guardian behavior. Training programs began immediately. Humans taught aliens defensive tactics, not how to attack but how to protect. The difference was important. Humans were not spreading violence. They were spreading the ability to defend. Sua's field hospitals became models for alien medical facilities. Her treatment protocols, which prioritized saving lives over everything else, were adopted galaxy-wide. The concept of treating enemy wounded was strange to many species, but they saw how it worked. Enemies who received mercy were less likely to fight later. Bora taught engineering to eager students from dozens of species. Her core principle was simple: never abandon a broken system. Always find a way to fix it. This philosophy spread beyond engineering. It became a way of thinking. Never abandon anyone. Always find a way to help. The war continued for months. Slowly, the human-led forces pushed the invaders back. It was not easy. Victories were paid for with blood and sacrifice. But humanity never wavered. Neither did their new allies. The galaxy learned to fight not with hate, but with protection. They learned to see strangers as family. They learned to become guardians. Then intelligence revealed the enemy's final plan. They were preparing to destroy the council station itself. Thousands of alien representatives would die. It would shatter galactic unity. The attack would come in 48 hours. There was no time for full evacuation. Hansol made his decision quickly. He sent a message to Earth. One word appeared on every screen, in every home, in every city. Help. Earth responded immediately. Every ship capable of flight launched. Military vessels, cargo ships, private yachts, everything. Civilians and soldiers alike raced toward the council station. They knew many would not return. They came anyway, because that was what humans did. When family was in danger, you did not ask about cost. You did not calculate odds. You simply helped. And the galaxy had become humanity's family. 1,000 ships raced through space toward a station full of aliens who had feared them just months ago. The greatest rescue mission in human history was underway, and every human involved knew exactly what they were doing. They were being themselves. They were being guardians. The human fleet arrived at the council station with minutes to spare. 1,000 ships of all sizes, shapes, and purposes. Behind them, the enemy armada approached. This would be the largest space battle in galactic history. Commander Jaehwan Kang's damaged flagship took position at the center of the formation. His crew had refused evacuation. They would fight to the end. Around them, the makeshift human fleet formed defensive layers. Every ship became part of a living shield around the station. Inside the station, thousands of aliens watched the displays. They saw human ships positioning themselves between the station and certain death. They saw civilians in cargo ships taking combat positions. They saw a species that had been feared now preparing to die for them. The enemy attacked without warning. Weapons fire lit up the space around the station. The battle was brutal and chaotic. Human ships did not try fancy maneuvers. They simply held their positions and absorbed the damage. Every hit they took was a hit the station did not take. Jae-hwan coordinated the defense from his bridge. His ship was already damaged from previous battles. Now it took hit after hit. Systems failed. Fires broke out. Casualties mounted. Still, they held position. Then a critical breach opened on the flagship. The bridge began losing atmosphere. Jae-hwan ordered immediate evacuation. His crew refused. They would not leave their posts. He ordered them again, using his command authority. They moved reluctantly toward the escape pods. Jae-hwan stayed behind. The ship's navigation could still be controlled manually. He could make one final contribution. He sealed the bridge door behind his evacuating crew. Then he set a collision course with the enemy command vessel. His dying ship accelerated toward the enemy. The impact was tremendous. Both ships exploded. The enemy formation broke apart. Other human vessels pressed their advantage. The tide was turning. Lieutenant Tae Yang Choi led a boarding team onto the enemy's planet-killer weapon. This massive weapon could destroy the entire station with one shot. They had to disable it. His team fought through enemy defenders, taking heavy casualties. They reached the weapon's core and planted explosives throughout the system. The escape was desperate. Enemy forces tried to stop them. They made it to their transport with seconds to spare. Engineer Bo-Ra Lee was piloting. She pushed the small ship beyond its limits, dodging enemy fire. The weapon exploded behind them. The shockwave nearly destroyed their ship. Bo-Ra somehow kept them alive. Dr. Ji-woo Park's biological weapon was deployed across the battlefield. Enemy soldiers began dropping, unconscious but alive. It did not kill them. It simply stopped them from fighting. Thousands of enemy troops were captured. Later, many of them would provide valuable intelligence. Some would even defect, horrified by what their leaders had made them do. The battle lasted 14 hours. It was the longest, bloodiest engagement of the war. But finally the enemy retreated. Their command structure was broken. Their planet killer was destroyed. Their forces were scattered. The station was saved. The cost was terrible. 300 human ships were destroyed. Thousands of humans died. Jae-hwan Kang was among them. His sacrifice had broken the enemy formation and saved countless lives. He would be remembered as a hero by every species in the galaxy. In the aftermath, medic Sua Lim worked for 30 straight hours treating casualties. Human, alien, and even captured enemy wounded were brought to her. She treated them all. Her hands never stopped moving. Her compassion never failed. Finally, she collapsed from exhaustion in a medical bay, surrounded by grateful patients from a dozen different species. The enemy commander was captured alive. Captain Han-Sol Kim insisted on meeting with them. The commander was a being consumed by hatred. Their species had destroyed themselves through endless war. Now they destroyed others because that was all they knew. Han-Sol asked a simple question. Why did humans fight so hard for strangers? The enemy commander could not understand. Fighting for your own species made sense. But dying for others? It was madness. Han-Sol's answer was simple. Because they needed us. Because they were in danger. Because it was the right thing to do. The enemy commander stared at him, genuinely confused. Their species had abandoned empathy long ago in favor of efficiency. They could not comprehend what humans were. The council met in emergency session. They gathered in a temporary chamber while the main council hall was repaired. Representatives from every species attended. The topic was simple: what to do about humanity. Ambassador Hee Jin-song stood before them. She did not need to make a speech. Everyone had seen what humans did. Everyone knew humans had saved them. She simply asked what the council wanted humanity's role to be going forward. The vote was unanimous. All restrictions on humans were removed immediately. Humans were granted full council membership with all rights and privileges, and a new position was created: Guardians of the Council. Humans would be responsible for defending all member species. Han-Sol was stunned. They had gone from feared predators to official protectors. It was everything he had hoped for and more. But the weight of responsibility was enormous. Could humans really protect an entire galaxy? That evening, the core team gathered in private. Hansol, Jiwoo, Taeyang, Bora, Haejin, and Minji sat together. A video connection showed Jaehwan's second-in-command, who had survived the battle. They toasted Jaehwan's memory and all the other humans who had died protecting the galaxy. They discussed what they had learned. Humanity's nature, which they had always taken for granted, was apparently unique in the galaxy. The ability to pack bond with other species. The instinct to protect the weak. The willingness to sacrifice for strangers. These were not common traits. These were gifts that humanity could share with the galaxy. A celebration was held aboard the repaired council station 2 weeks later. It was the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from every species attended. The mood was joyful and grateful. Aliens who had once fled from humans now sought them out. Children from dozens of species crowded around Sua, fascinated by the human who had saved so many lives. She told them stories and answered their questions with infinite patience. They were not afraid of her. They saw her as a hero. Bora taught engineering classes to students from across the galaxy. Her core principle, never give up, never abandon a problem, had become famous. Young aliens wanted to learn human persistence and creativity. She was happy to teach them. Taeyang trained council security forces in defensive tactics. His classes were always full. Everyone wanted to learn from the human who had taken a blast meant for a council member. He taught them that protection was not about strength. It was about commitment. The maintenance worker Pip approached Bora during the celebration. He carried a sculpture he had made himself. It showed a large figure shielding smaller ones. The title translated as Guardian. He presented it to Bora as an apology and a thank you. Bora started crying, which initially alarmed Pip until she explained these were happy tears. They embraced, and Pip was no longer afraid. Earth received news of humanity's new role with mixed emotions. Pride, certainly, but also concern about the responsibility. Could they really protect an entire galaxy? The discussion lasted for weeks. Finally, Earth's leaders made their decision. Yes, they would accept this role. Because protecting others was what humans did. It was who they were. Months passed. The galaxy changed. Human Guardian forces established bases on key worlds. Mixed species crews became common. Humans served alongside aliens who had once feared them. The relationships that formed were strong and genuine. Humans pack-bonded easily, and other species learned to do the same. Captain Hansol Kim stood in the observation deck of the rebuilt council station. He looked out at the fleet below. Ships from dozens of species flew in formation, many commanded by humans who would die before abandoning their crews. It was beautiful. His team joined him one by one. Jiwoo had just returned from a research mission. Taeyang came from training exercises. Bora arrived from the engineering bay. Haejin finished a diplomatic meeting. Minji completed her latest report on galactic linguistics. Even Sua took a break from the medical bay. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Finally, Haejin spoke. She said the galaxy now understood what humans always knew, that predatory instincts and protective instincts came from the same place, that the ability to hunt evolved into the ability to guard, that pack bonding meant everyone could be family. Taeyang mentioned that requests for human security personnel were overwhelming. Every station wanted human guards now. It was the opposite of how things had started. Bora added that alien engineering students were adopting human problem-solving methods. Never leave a problem unsolved. Never abandon a damaged system. Always find a way. These principles were spreading throughout galactic technology. Minji noted that dozens of species were now studying Earth languages and culture. They wanted to understand what created such fierce protectors. Her classes were always full. Jiwoo shared good news. 3 more species had requested council membership, citing human protection as the reason. The galaxy felt safe for the first time in recorded history. Species that had hidden for centuries were now willing to join the community. Sua spoke quietly. She said humans understood suffering because they had experienced so much of it throughout their evolution. That was why they worked so hard to prevent it in others. Pain taught empathy. Survival taught the value of life. A transport arrived carrying new Guardian recruits, young humans who had volunteered to serve as protectors for species they had never met. Hansel and his team watched them disembark. These were the future. A generation of humans who would grow up considering the entire galaxy as their family. The observation deck filled with representatives from many species, all coming to watch the Guardian arrival. They no longer saw predators. They saw protectors. They saw beings who would stand between them and any threat. They saw hope. A small alien child broke free from their parent and ran toward the humans. There was a moment of panic from the older aliens, but it passed quickly. Old fears were dying. The child reached a young female guardian who knelt down with a gentle smile. The child handed her a flower from their home world. The guardian accepted the flower carefully. Her eyes filled with emotion. She spoke in the child's language, words that Minji had taught all the guardians. The translation was simple but powerful. I promise to keep you safe. The child hugged her. The guardian hugged back, careful not to squeeze too hard. Around them, aliens watched with understanding. This was what humans were, not predators pretending to be kind, but guardians who happened to have predatory traits. Years would pass. Historians would mark this as the beginning of the Guardian Age. Human fleets would patrol the outer reaches. Human medics would serve on every station. Human engineers would design safety systems for entire worlds. Human diplomats would broker peace between ancient enemies. But more importantly, the galaxy learned what pack bonding really meant. Species that had never cooperated before now worked together. The concept of chosen family spread across the stars. Everyone became part of everyone else's pack. Earth remained humanity's home, but humans now had homes on thousands of worlds. They served as guardians wherever they were needed. They protected, they cared, they fought when necessary, and showed mercy when possible. Because that was what predators did when they evolved empathy. They became the fiercest protectors in existence. The greatest surprise was not that humans were dangerous. Everyone had known that from the beginning. The surprise was discovering that their danger came with an unbreakable promise. I will keep you safe. And across the galaxy, from the newest species to join the Council to the ancient civilizations that had existed for millions of years, everyone slept a little easier, because somewhere out there a human guardian stood watch, and humans never abandoned their post. They never broke their promise. They never stopped protecting those who needed them. Captain Hansol Kim looked out at the stars one final time that night. He thought about the journey from feared predators to beloved guardians. He thought about all the humans who had died proving what humanity truly was. He thought about the future, where humans and aliens would grow up together as one family. It had all started with a misunderstanding. The galaxy saw teeth and claws and hunting instincts. They saw danger, but they had missed the most important part. They had missed the love that motivated every action, the fierce loyalty that defined every relationship, the unshakable commitment to protect the vulnerable. Earth's most feared predators had turned out to be its guardians. And now they were the galaxy's guardians too, not because they were forced into that role, but because it was their nature. Because when you gave humans someone to protect, they would never let that person down. That was the truth that changed everything, and it was a truth that would echo across the stars for generations to come.